It is 6 o'clock, March 11th, 2025. Board of Health will come to order for tonight's meeting. We have all members in attendance. In addition, we also have Andrew Golis, Town Administrator, Gary Magnuson from CMG, and Jim Philbrook. First order of business is to review and accept prior meeting minutes for February 11th, 2024. If there's somebody who would like to propose approval of those.
Can we do that a little bit later? Because I actually have not reviewed this yet.
Okay, sure.
So
we'll do that.
Give me a chance to see it.
We'll do that after.
Usually I'm ahead of it. I didn't get to it, so.
That's okay.
Take a peek at it.
Then we'll go on to new business. For new business, the one item that we had on here was Homey Collective 2025. We discussed this, I believe, at our January meeting, and a representative from Homey Collective did call Andrea several weeks ago, I guess, and asked to be put on the agenda. And I said, sure, by all means, let's go ahead and put them on there. I did bring some additional material in case they call, either call in or show. And as of now, we don't have anything. I know that Andrea did contact them, phone them more than once, starting, I believe, yesterday, and they did not call back. So we'll go ahead and table that for now, and if they manage to show up before the meeting's over, we can address that at that time. With that in mind, we'll move on to old business. Flint Road landfill, and I don't know who wants to talk first. Gary Magnuson, probably. I saw some good news, so I want to be able to smile about that. That's good. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. In an effort to get through this and get him to his next meeting, we'll go relatively quick. I think the first thing, which is unrelated to the ones you're thinking about, but 4 Dresser Hill Road, the property there that had the gasoline contamination that we cleaned up a long time ago, that project is kind of in a holding pattern where we test the wells once a year, sometimes twice a year, to see how we're doing. The last test was very good. We are, quote me on the number, but we're either at the standard or just about at the drinking water standard for the last well that needs to meet it. So once we get to that standard, 4 quarters and it's done. So we were thinking about 3-4 years ago, Jim, you and I talked about being aggressive and doing some treatments and but we're just going to let it natural attenuation take its course. We submitted the last status report. Your annual costs on that project are $3,000 a year or something versus tens of thousands for treatments, and it's cleaning itself up. So that's good.
Yeah,
we're almost done.
Real good. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Question, Gary. The standard, is it 70?
So that one, 70 was the standard for MTBE. That had gasoline contamination, so we're complying with the VPH and EPH standards. The one that is holding us, I think it's a C9 to 18, I can't remember. There's 3 different ranges in each of those. If I recall correctly, I didn't bring it with me. I want to say the standard's 200 and we're at like 250, and we were at 10,000.
Okay.
So it's dramatically reduced. And it's got a nice trend. We submit the reports. We used to have to submit them semi-annually. We asked for an change with DEP to submit them annually, so you reduced your cost almost to nothing on that. And it's, I would think, within a year or so, we should be able to close that one and be done with it.
Nice. Excellent.
So that's good. Second piece of good news that Jim Philbrook got the CC on today, but so we submitted we submit status reports for the landfill every 6 months. So the last one we submitted in February was a status report, and it's called an IRA modification. And it's a modification because we requested a reduction in sampling. We're doing 60 homes about. We have to do them all quarterly. We put a request in there for homes that have 4 quarters of data with no PFAS detections, or we requested all homes that have 4 corners with no PFAS 6 that we go to annual testing. DEP almost agreed with us. They approved homes with no PFAS detections. So there's a difference. PFAS 6 are the only ones currently regulated by Mass DEP. there's 18 compounds we test for. We feel it's appropriate to only deal with the ones that are regulated. The other 18 you test for, but there's no standard. DEP said the ones that have no PFAS detections at all in 4 quarters, you can stop and do them annually. If they had a PFAS, there's one home that had a couple other detections of PFBX and a few other things that DEP is a little concerned about. So they said, we want you to continue to do that house unless those go away. But the good news is that it was 6 or 8 homes that were going to go from from quarterly to annual. So
Yeah.
nice savings for the town.
Yes.
There's no point in continuing to do that. DEP is kind of seeing the light that our position here is. We've been doing this. We've got data. There's no issue. So I thought that was really good. That just came through at 4 o'clock today, 4:30 today. So that's another good bit of information. We'll put that in our database and we'll just adjust the sampling appropriately. And then the good news for you guys is DEP on March 3rd, the last day of their acceptance period, and these are all copies for you guys if you ever want to read them, but you now have approval to cap the landfill.
Yes.
So that document is pretty in-depth. They basically agreed with, as you recall, we had to submit, they had a notice of, not non-compliance, how did they issue it? They had some questions and we answered them.
Do you want to use this for reference? 'Cause
And one of the big questions was, they wanted the abutter to be an applicant to the application, and we said no.
Oh,
They
yeah.
agreed- that went away, which is really good.
Yeah, it is.
So they had some technical questions. Bruce Haskell addressed those. They're relatively small, so those are all addressed. So this lays out an approval and lays out some timelines. We have some 60-day timelines as to when we're going to bid it. Then once we bid it, we have a 60 or 90-day timeline to tell DEP when we're going to start it. Then we have start schedules. I had a meeting today with Jim and Andrew. We called it a 30,000 view meeting. I'm meeting tomorrow with Bruce Haskell to really get down in the weeds on this approval and what steps need to be taken. You've already contracted with us and Bruce to do the bid specs. They're partially done. We're going to send the bid specs to this group in draft, and we'll allow you guys to review them. A lot of moving parts on, and these are some of the things we talked about today are for the board as far as who is the contractor contracting with. I believe we said it's going to be the Board of Health because you guys have control over capping the landfill, yet I think Andrew will be the signature because he's the procurement officer. So we got to work out all those details. None of that's happening right now. Bruce and I are going through the bid specs. We're going to get them ready. They're going to come to you guys for a review. But at the 30,000 view, we went over about 12 different comments, and we just started to try to get a feel for which ones, how they're going to get handled. And there are all kinds of things from work hours to where do we put a construction trailer? Do we put it at that site? Probably not, because there's not room. So we're thinking of maybe putting it at the 90 Flint Road landfill. We talked about that up in that concrete pad up at the top. That brings up another issue. If you do that, we want to make sure no one's on the landfill. So we'll have to put up a temporary fence up there so cars, traffic doesn't get up on the capped landfill that you have. So a lot of moving parts, but in general, we're going to get that prepared, come back here within a month or two, should be ready to go to bid. You'll get your bids in, hopefully hire a contractor this summer. DEP would like to see the project done in about a year. So we're thinking contractor, award the contract, the fall, start the project, so erosion control, clearing and grubbing, and then over the winter bring in material, because you're allowed to take in what's called COM 9701, relatively clean material to get the grades up to their shape it, grade it, and then next spring and summer cap it. Environmental monitoring, we have to put new monitoring wells in, do all kinds of things associated with that. Tomorrow night, I'm supposed to be on the agenda for the Conservation Commission. Rose is sick, so they changed that meeting. It'll be next month. I already, we should get that approved. We gave Concom the notice of intent application. They asked for some information. We provided that. The town's review engineer, Graves, reviewed the documents, got back to us with some comments. We're working on the comments back. They're relatively minor. We should be able to answer those. So that should go through relatively easily. Even if it isn't, we have plenty of time because we don't actually need that until the contractor starts. But we'd like to have the order of conditions to include them in the bid package if possible, because the contractor's going to be required to comply with that. So from the 30,000-foot view, that's what I have to say. If you guys want any more detail, I'll gladly go to it or answer any questions, but in an effort to preserve Andrew's time,
That's fine.
and
Just here for moral support.
talk about the project, that's kind of where we sit.
Yes.
Gary, on the COM 97, if it's scheduled for the winter, right? Are we kind of like hoping somebody has a project that needs to get rid of it at that time? It's not really stockpiled up where you go to a quarry and pick it up, right? We got to kind of hope there's a relatively nearby project that's in the market for disposal.
So that's one of the issues we talked about a little bit today, and Bruce and I have been talking about that a lot. And there's a lot of attributes to that question. So under COM 97, you could take mildly contaminated soils. So for example, if a house had a fuel oil leak and the concentrations were relatively low in the soil you dug up, you could take that, because if it's lower than the applicable standard, you can take it. What is also happening is we're seeing a lot of naturally occurring soil going to these types of facilities. So arsenic is the big trigger. Arsenic has a standard of 20 parts per million, and you have to notify. However, under COM 97, you can take it a little bit higher, or certain facilities even below 20. They don't, when they're doing a construction site, they don't want it. They have to get rid of it, and you can't get rid of it. You have to go to certain facilities. So what's happening is there's a different pricing scheme, and there's a different availability scheme. And then the next issue that's coming to play is there's a different soil quality scheme. So I'm involved with a couple of facilities that are taking in excess soils. One of them is taking in soil from Boston. Well, the soil they're taking in is wet clay. You can't build a mound in a landfill, especially in the winter, with wet clay.
Right.
So they may be getting maybe they'll get a little bit more money per ton to get rid of that stuff, but the contractor can't do anything with it. So there's a lot of moving parts on what comes, when it comes, how it comes. So, and we haven't worked out the details. One of the big things I'm going to talk to Bruce about tomorrow is how do we deal with the credit back to the town for the material coming in. The way it will generally work is the contractor will bid the project of X dollars to do the project. He knows he can take in 30,000 yards of material. That's what we're allowed under the permit. So he'll credit this board or this town back as that material comes in. And is it a price per ton, a price per yard? Is it at the end of the job? Is it halfway through the job? Does it get credited monthly? But CMG will be your overseer on approving that material to make sure it meets COM 9701. Bruce will be the overseer to make sure it meets structural and character and building, and then the contractor is going to be there saying, well, I want this material because maybe it's higher or lower price, or it's closer, or it's easier. So there's a lot of moving parts on how that all works. Mm-hmm. So you've got 3 sets of eyes looking on that, 2 of them looking out directly for you, and 1 is the contractor, looking at ease of project and everything.
I asked because, like, I know a project right now. It's probably got some suitable material. Might not, but I feel it does.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if we're looking, and it's in Dudley, right? So, like, the question is, do we, like, say, hey, we're going to be taking in 30,000 yards in January, make a phone call, and just be it known, and then maybe we get lucky and it works out or not? Like, I don't know. Or do we just stay out of it and you go to com97.com and there's a whole list of available things? Like, I don't know what the procedure is, but
It's there's not a lot of players in the audience. There's only a few companies that are actually qualified to do the capping. You might get as many as 6 or 8 bids, and all those guys are in the market of trying to get soils. There's some soil brokers out there. So, again, a benefit of having Bruce has got the pulse on this.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of contacts as well. I could probably make 2 calls and get you all the material in there if we needed to. So I'm not too worried about finding the material. I'm a little more worried about the timing and the quality of the material.
So, John, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So, like, when we cap 90 Flint Road, right, it's the whole story about the dollar dirt. Me and Jim were talking about it today. The topsoil is $1. The contract read cost per unit to import, along those lines, per yard or whatever. The value was $1, okay? So if you brought in 10,000 yards, it was $10,000, okay? So they bring in, I don't know how many yards, and we get a bill on the desk for $40-something thousand. What's this? Well, we needed the topsoil and this and that. So, yeah, but it said $1. I think it was lump sum $1. I forget what the thing was, but the values were significantly different. And I said, I'm not signing that. That's why me and Mr. Haskell butted heads at one time, because he's the one saying, here's the invoice that you have to pay. And I'm saying, it's not what the contract says, and I'm not paying it. And then Willie says, but I ain't paying it. And Nellie says, and I ain't paying it. So now Bruce has a bill in his hand that may or may not have been paid, but it clearly wasn't part of the contract, right? And it caused friction, if to say the least. We never paid it, the town never paid it, and it was never due because it was a bogus bill.
Right.
With that being said, right, on all of the moving parts that we have going on, and there's going to be pluses and minuses and dirt and all that, I'm hoping that our team makes it as ironclad as we can. So if it's $20 a yard or $20 a ton, that it's able to, we all feel comfortable at the table saying, yeah, that's what it was. And we're not butting heads and saying,
That's why the bid specs are coming to everybody in draft. So we're all going to have a chance to look at them and make sure we understand what we're putting out to bid.
right.
But yeah, I hear you. That definitely is a legitimate concern, and those things should be in the base contract, and they already know how much topsoil they need. All that should be in the base contract, so there shouldn't be a change on that. Hopefully, and I haven't seen it yet. Bruce is working on it. Hopefully, the only delta will be the soil coming in. Everything else should be a base bid, but we'll to be determined. So
Right.
that's all. Spend some. We're not going to give it to you on a Friday and say this is going to bid Monday. We're going to have time to go through it,
I hope
and we're going to make sure that it's.
And then, again, it's easier for us if the contractor's awesome, right? You know how it goes. And when you have a bad contractor, it's a nightmare the whole way through.
Yeah.
So as a team from our side, yes, we want the best bang for the dollar, but at the second rate, it's like references, projects, I want to...
We're going to make sure all of those are in there. We
We all-
talked about that a little bit today, about making sure that when we're comparing prices, we're comparing prices of 1, 2, 3, or 5 approved, legitimate
Qualified.
contractors, qualified, doing the same scope of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a challenge with a public bid. Always a challenge. But these are defined scopes, and yeah, we're going to have to have our I's dotted and T's crossed on our document so that we can look at it and understand it. I mean, hopefully we get 5 bids all within 5% of each other,
So
and then it's easy.
in the the public works world, or the bigger projects, right? It's lowball it, get your foot in the door, and destroy them with change orders in the end. And that's how the game is. And we all know it. And it's, I think, very important for our team to minimize it. Yes, we're going to have change orders, absolutely unforeseen. legitimate, no questions asked, fair is fair, and that's the way it goes. But there's a lot of shenanigans and things like that, you know, our team should really be on top of to say, no, this is why, you know, and to follow the scope of work.
Well, that's the key. An ironclad bid spec is what you really need. You know, one thing that will be a change order or will be a concern is ledge. There is rock on the backside of that landfill. We are talking about tying the cap into that. Now, that doesn't mean you need to take out 10,000 yards of rock to make it work. We can make the cap go around. We can fill to it. We've got topos. We've got existing grades. So, but I got to look at that. I have not looked into that aspect of how that's going to get addressed because that gets really expensive.
So
We shouldn't be taking it out. We should be going to it.
yeah, and if that's the case, I mean, does it make sense on our due diligence part now to drill it and get the depths and know where it is, or you guys know?
It's
all
the
that?
topos have already been done, so I don't think we have. So the only concern, and I'll bring this up with Bruce, would be on the backside on the eastern end of the landfill. That's where the slopes are too steep, and that's got to be pulled back. We've done test pits back there to evaluate the area to fill. That shouldn't be an issue at all. The other end of the landfill, closer to the 90 Flint Road landfill, is where the rock is, and there's no slope issues there because it's existing topography. So you've got these existing topographies that go like this, and then you got the back of the landfill over here that's 1-to-1. That needs to be pulled back. I don't see that being an issue.
When they did the LNG plant on Route 169, there was ledge, a lot of ledge, within 200 feet of a highway, which is even worse. When that bid spec went out, be it known, there's ledge. I assume the initial prices were higher to represent that ledge. Because if I'm bidding a job and I think there's ledge, I'm going to put X amount of dollar value in the kitty for the ledge. And I'm not going to run short. If I think it's 100, I'm going to make it 150 or whatever is the number, you know. So when they hit ledge there, it was, yeah, we just hit ledge, but it wasn't a change order. It was, here's your soil logs, this is what we have. You're going to hit ledge.
It's in your base bid.
It's in your base bid, and that was not a change order. And that was, you know, that was no joke over there. That was very, very expensive to do all of that. But from the procurement part of it, it was probably more money in the original scope, but there was no surprises, there was no CO, it was all part of it. I don't know. Not saying that's the best way to do it.
I'm actually going to put that down. I'll actually we'll look at those topos and see where we sit.
Andrew, do you have anything you need to say? I know you
Nope.
got to get going.
No, I'm good. Really just want to make sure we're on the same page with the procurement stuff. Sure we can do, more to come on that, but just making sure that you guys were cool with, being the signatories, but I'll kind of handle all the back end stuff and make sure that.
You'll be like the Congress. How's that? You're holding the purse strings. And we'll try to play the good guys and work with you as best we can, okay?
Sounds good.
Instead of politics today. Go ahead.
Yeah, when we've done them in the past, right, the bill comes across, and it's not a secret, we know the timelines and all that. We get the bill. Our team, meaning the board, Jim, Gary, Bruce, we all say, yeah, this is where they're at, this is it. And then we vote, we sign off on it, pass it along.
Okay.
I'm totally on board with that way. If everybody else is, I'm good with that.
Yeah?
It's important to me to just keep an eye on whoever's the one saying, yes, let's pay them, to make sure that money's due. Because I don't want that dollar dirt difference coming again in similar items. I just want it to be like, for the taxpayer, copacetic, like this is what was due, this is what we all agreed on, and let's pay it.
So you want the final say, is what you're saying?
I do want the final say. I don't want the final say.
The board.
I want our board to have the final say
Yeah.
on
I think if the six of us are all in concert together, we'll be fine.
All
Yeah.
right. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank
you.
Talk to you soon.
Yep.
Thanks, Andrew.
See you guys.
You know, it's the same thing, right? You could complete a scope of work and submit for a payment, but if the scope of work isn't satisfactory, wait a minute, We
Yeah.
have an issue here, an issue there. And we just want to make sure that bills aren't just getting shoved down a different department that's not in tune to the progress as it goes.
That's why we have Gary here. He keeps an eye on everything, right, Gary?
Team.
I know, team. Yes, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, I think Andrew stated that we would get the funding for the loan, then it would process through finance, but any approval of any monies will come before the board. So when they're gonna make a decision that this month, this is the bill, you'll be informed that Gary's all set with it, Bruce has no problem, this should be paid.
Mhm.
That way, there's no I'm not gonna sign off on any, I sign off on little stuff, but this, under the authority of the board, this is your authority to sign off on this stuff.
Is
And
that
it
a-
should be, as elected officials for the town.
Is that anticipated to be like what, once a month? Because
It should be probably
monthly?
monthly, so at your meeting, you anticipate that you're gonna get a bill. Once you give the approval, the board would have the chairman at the time, or if it's you, whoever it is, sign off on it, and then we would send it through a process. But you're gonna get a process bill at my office.
Right.
Our office here would process, you're gonna see the bid, the bill, and it's already gonna be approved by Gary and by Bruce that this is all set, whatever they put down there, this work was performed.
Okay.
And we'll set it up such that, because I haven't seen all the documents yet, but normally it's a 30 days to pay. So normally the bill will come in, it'll get approved. So we'll set up the timing of those bills with the timing of your meetings,
Yeah.
so that your meeting, like I don't get a bill tomorrow and we don't see you for a month, and then it needs to get approved by this board, then it needs to get approved by Andrew's group. So we'll set all that up so that it may be 45 days to be paid. We'll have to figure that out. I don't know how the procurement and the state reg actually allows that. So we'll set it all up, and we'll have a system in place so that within a week of that, hopefully your meetings will be within about a week of when that bill comes, so that all parties can review it, you guys as well, and we can have, it's not something that we're going to say, here it is, approve it. I want you, this board, to have it in advance of the meeting, so you can read the minutes of the meeting prior to getting here and feel comfortable with it and ask questions. But it's going to have at least 2 technical reviews prior, 3, Jim. So I'm not going to say it's a rubber stamp, but it should be pretty systematic once we get going.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right, the board has control over the landfill and has to approve it.
And if we need to adjust meetings to a little more frequent meetings, we can do that too, I would imagine. Currently we're doing about every 4 weeks or so.
Let's kind of wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
I fully expect every 4 weeks is fine. Get a good set of bid specs, get a good contractor, should go pretty smooth.
Okay. Yes.
So I just remembered on 90 Flint Road, we were meeting every 2 weeks. There was so many time-sensitive things that were changing. It was fluid as it was going, and we did adjust those meetings at that time. It was important to not delay the project and all that. So
We've done in the past, not necessarily with this board, but it's something to think about. The board can make a vote to allow 1 or 2 of the members to approve a change order up to $5,000, $10,000 without a meeting. So in other words, to keep the project going, or let's say you make it 1,000 or 5, whatever it is, so that you don't have to have a meeting all the time for the small things, and then the bigger things come to you. Again, that's something we can figure out later. I think having a meeting every couple of weeks when the project gets going maybe might be a great idea. And we're going to see how things move along. And you can just have one scheduled, and if that's the only thing on the agenda and we don't have anything, you just don't have the meeting.
right.
That's fine too.
Mhm.
So that's actually, we've done that before too, where you just schedule them every 2 weeks, and if there's nothing time sensitive,
Cancel the
you
meeting.
just cancel the meeting and then keep your 4-week one locked in.
That
It's-
helps procurement. That helps everything.
It's good that
Excuse me.
the group understands this and has done this before. It'll make this all smoother. I've done these type of projects where people are looking at me like I have, deer in the headlights, and it's difficult because why is it time sensitive? Well, it is.
Yes.
So the COM 97, right? How do you, or is it Bruce? How does our side know that the payment's coming?
So there's one question that I would have to answer too. So there's an approval of the environmental quality and the structural quality of the soil by CMG's LSP, either Ben or Andy, and then the structural side by Bruce. So before that material can get in, another LSP, an engineer, need to submit documents to us saying, we believe this soil is acceptable under COM 97. We need to review it and say, we agree with you that it's acceptable, and write a letter that says, you can send 1,500 tons of that material from that address to this location because it meets. The payment issue is something we talked about at 30,000 feet today. The permit says 30,000 yards of material. There's a whole bunch of ways to do it. We could drone fly that project every month. Based on a drone can fly it, can do the topos. You fly it the next month, you do the topos, the delta, the difference is how many yards went in there. It's one way you can do it. The permit says you have to have tonnage and cubic yard submittals every month anyways. So we're either going to have to run across the scale or do yardage. It looks like we're going to have to run across scale and do yardage. So we're going to have a certified scale that says 22 tons came across on truck 3 at 9:37 in the morning on today. So when the bill comes in for that month, if there was 1,000 yards of material and the credit back to the town is X, the bill should say you owe me $237,000 for the work I did according with the schedule, but yet you've got a credit of 10,000, 5,000, 9,000. So it can go that way, Matt. It can be lump sum type thing where you say every quarter, every 3 months we'll take a credit off or we'll issue a credit based on how much materials come in. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. That's one of the things Bruce and I are going to try to drill down to come up with the best way for the town.
So, as a town, we're not going to be receiving a check from a different project that's trying to get rid of it. That's where that comes out of a credit from our contractor.
Your contractor, landfill contractor X, has the job. ABC Dirt Company contracts with landfill contractor X.
Okay.
ABC Dirt Company has to pay landfill contractor X to get rid of his dirt. Landfill contractor X credits the town of Charlton. They're responsible for everything. Whether they got paid or not, it doesn't have any, and all those details will get worked out. The last thing we want is this town to have a contractual relationship with 45 people bringing soil.
That's what
in.
I'm asking.
Now, you are going to get less money, but it's not significantly less. And again, it's all based on quality, quantity, timing, location. So they may be charging $5 a ton more, $5 a ton less, because they want it or they need it or they like the quality or they don't like the quality. You're going to have a lump sum, you're going to have a unit price. You're getting this credit. If they got paid twice that, they got paid twice that. If they got paid $3 more than that, they got paid $3 more than that. If they got paid less than that, it doesn't matter. You're still getting that credit. But you don't have that contractual relationship with all those people.
So, and I'm just asking so I understand it. Just say the dollar value was $20 to get rid of it, to dispose of it, and that's a fair price, right? But if it's not so contaminated, it might be 18. And if it's green and got eyes coming out of it, well, I know we're not taking that. But if it's really bad, or it's on the other side, they might have to pay more. Whatever the number is. Why couldn't we, as a side, and I'm not trying to run your contract. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
But why don't we say, well, we know we know there's going to be 30,000 yards. We know there's a value of $20 a yard. Why can't we just say there's a
$600,000.
$600,000 credit, end the story, and
That may be, that's what I'm going to talk to Bruce about. That's where I'm looking, and that's why I said, let's say it takes them 9 months to fill the pit, to get the grading done. They know there's a $600,000 credit due. Every 3 months, they credit back $200,000. And we look at it and say, yep, there's about a third of the material in there. Yep, there's 2/3 of the material. Yep, the material's all in. There's a lot of accounting on the backside that we need to deal with, and we need to get the DEP, and we need to document and everything. But the relationship back to the town is, you know what you're going to get for a credit. It's going to be in the bid. The bidder's going to say, I'm going to give you 19, 20, 37, 16, whatever number they come up. That's going to be in there. It's up to us to decide how we want to handle that.
but is it nuts to even discuss the credit? Like if I'm the contractor and I'm going to build this landfill, and we all know that yes, you have the ability to take in 30,000 yards of COM. We're expecting a credit in your bid, so the bid price doesn't come $2 million with a $600,000 credit with a net of 1.4. We just get the bid of 1.4.
There's a possibility to do that. I don't know how the local I will talk with Bruce about that and Andrew about how that whole procurement thing works. But yeah, just call a spade a spade.
Yeah, call it out. Like, this is what it is. You have that ability. It goes into you. You know, like I deal with that with timber.
You're crediting back for the
I'm
value of the
crediting
lumber.
back. But I don't say, well, listen, if I pull off 3,000 in timber, I'm going to give you 2,000, whatever. I just go into the project and I say, I think there's 3,000 in timber in here, and then I make an adjustment. So when I give the price,
Yeah.
it might be lower than the next guy because the next guy might not have had that 3,000 in timber. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, I think that's actually, if procurement allows, we may be able to do it. It really keeps it simple.
It keeps it simple, and it also affects long-term numbers when you're paying certain things based on gross revenues and all that to be paying insurance or whatever else on a number of 600,000 that we didn't even like. It's I don't know.
No, I hear you.
It's just I'm just curious. I'm just asking the question. How it is how it is. I'm just asking the question.
I don't have an answer,
No, that's
but
fine.
I like what I'm hearing. So let me get you an answer.
The only thing I could think of with that would be if we were doing an estimate of 30,000 and then we find out that they have to bring in more or significantly less, and we're saying, well, wait a minute, based on our drone survey and what we're seeing, you only put in 23,000.
The permit only allows 30, so we're not going for a permit mod to get more than 30.
Right.
The question is, are the plans 100% accurate? Which they are, because we had come up with a higher number than that. So DEP cut us down a little bit.
Okay.
So I think there should be a level of comfort by all parties that 30,000 is the number.
So you're saying you're gonna make do with 30,000?
We're allowed to do a slope like this. 30,000. Let me put us a little bit like this. We can't go like this. So
No
yeah,
toboggan
we're
slopes.
stopping at 30. Yeah. And we have to document back to DEP that under 30,000 went in there. And they've given us the calculation on how many tons that equals at 1.9 multiplier, blah, 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 blah. So we've got a lot of documentation. But I think Matt's approach is logical. Why even talk about it?
Yeah.
It's a
Because it's a
known.
lot of extra work to
Well,
set
that's-
up a scale and then have
Well,
somebody
no, you
take
have to,
it.
the scale's got to happen, all that approval. There is.
Well, that would, but it would be on the contractor's end. It wouldn't be.
No, it's on, we have to review everything and
Yeah,
approve it.
okay.
Bruce has to approve it structurally. So let's say somebody gives us a test of material and it's, it meets the standard, but it's 50% wood or wood chips. We can't take that because it doesn't meet the requirement. So there's all kinds of checks and balances that we have to do to comply with the approved permit. So all those checks and balances happen anyways.
Okay.
The simple part is, how does the money part happen?
All right.
And the bottom line is, the contractor knows he's bringing this in. The contractor knows that is credit off the project, and maybe we set it up as just a simple price it with putting that material in and give that credit. A lot of it has to do with timing too. Let's say they can't secure it.
There's no place to store anything over there?
When you're done, no, it's going to be right
No.
to the top.
I'm talking about now.
There is now. We could get an office trailer there now.
No, I'm not talking about storage, I mean, I'm talking about
Material?
yardage, yeah.
Yeah.
A
Oh, yeah.
considerable amount of material.
Yeah, you could
Could
keep
be
it.
cleared.
Well, keep in mind, once it's cleared, you start to work. You're going to start at one end and basically start building that shape and work your way back. So, because it's a relatively tight site, wetlands on all the back, road on the front, you don't. The whole site is being used. Every square inch of that property will ultimately be capped. So, yes, but there's no reason why you couldn't. We have to meet requirements of the permit. We can't put a mountain there 50 feet high that's a 1-to-1 slope and leave it there for a year. We could leave it there for a couple of weeks while we're adjusting the grades and doing things, but the way you really want to do this is prep the site, and as you're bringing the stuff in, it gets placed and packed and compacted and ready to go.
But why do you feel as though it's gonna come into wintertime?
Well, it just sees just where it, if we bid it this spring, you're not going to get a contract in place till summer. It's going to take a month or two to facilitate any soils. So you got a month of field work just to prep the site. So you're in fall. But it doesn't. DEP would like the whole job done in a year.
So at that point, why wouldn't you wait till springtime, the following spring then, to start all the material?
It depends on availability of material. Does the contractor want to work over the winter? Is it good for us, bad for us? Sometimes it's good.
Sometimes it depends on the weather too, I mean,
Right. Yeah.
This past winter, it's pretty tough.
Right.
The winter before, I mean, you work all winter.
They work
so-
all winter. So that's why we're going to set it up and give some flexibility there. A lot of things come into play. How's their tracking pad working? If it's 2 feet of mud, are they going to sweep the road after every single truck? They don't want to do that. Costs them money. We're not paying for that. That's in the base contract. So they might look at it and say, hey, it's going to be frozen for the next 3 weeks. Let's bring a whole bunch of dirt in while it's frozen. It's very easy. There's no tracking. And
But if
so-
if they will only let them stockpile the stuff for a couple of weeks, I mean, it kind of,
Well, no, they could work the material. I mean, I'm sending stuff to a landfill. They're working it. They're putting it right in place all winter. They're working every day because the material we're sending them is not frozen.
yeah.
We're-
No.
But if you're sending them frozen chunks, they
No,
can't
no,
do
no,
it.
I understand that.
There's a lot of logistical issues. We're going to put a lot of that onus on the contractor, and the contractor is going to be responsible to comply with the permit. And one of the big things in winter is, can you get the trucking? No one's driving in the snow. If it's really muddy, that's another problem. So there's logistical issues that we're going to put the onus on the contractor, and they've got a standard they need to comply with. The other thing we did talk about, and we'll just bring up briefly because I think it was important, is notice to the abutters.
Yeah.
Jim brought it up, and I think it's appropriate that once we get the bid out, get a contractor in place before any site work starts. Jim's comment was the board should do a notice to all the abutters. Everybody's aware of what's going, should be aware of anyways, but they're going to cut down every tree on the property in 1 day or 2 days. So we think it would be appropriate
Oh, yeah,
to notify
sure.
people
Yeah.
before we do that.
Yeah.
I think I would just be cordial to the neighbors that, hey, your neighborhood's gonna be, for a while, gonna be a construction site.
Mhm.
Just to let them know that things are gonna change. They're aware.
That would be
because they're
the
testing.
neighborly thing to do, certainly.
Yeah.
That's the board. Yeah. You're going to get the calls anyway, so let's notify them in advance.
Yeah.
And that way, if they have any problems, to direct them towards this office,
Yeah.
so we can bring them before the board and I can address
248-2210.
Yeah. We'll have a site contact, I'll be a contact, we'll keep those lines of communication open, but I think that's an important aspect.
And Steve Gregoire and Steve Blanchard did identify 2 hydrants for use during construction to fill their trucks.
Because we need water to keep dust down and for the sweeping vehicles and everything, so we just, another little logistic 30,000 foot thing we talked about today, so we're going to make that, there probably will be a fee to use. If I have to put up, the contractor's gonna have to put or the town will provide a meter, and the contractor will have to pay for the water that they use, which will be the board, but.
Well, the problem is the state has set regulations on, we're in a drought, so she has superseded federal law and stated that she's declaring a drought right away. So excessive use of washing your car or watering your lawn is not going to be allowed.
Well, dust
Statewide
control is different.
Already.
Mm-hmm. We're in a really severe drought right now.
I can take care of that. All I have to do is go out and wash the cars and leave them out. It'll rain within 24 hours. Guaranteed.
Get
Not
on it.
just-
Yeah, okay.
Something we're dealing with, we might have wells start to dry up because of, we didn't have, well, not yet, we can still have storms, but we didn't get a lot of water very cold, but not a lot of snow and water.
Snowfall's about half.
Wash cars.
Town of Southbridge is at only at 80% capacity in their reservoirs, and even though that's plenty, they're still gonna have to set restrictions in the town of Southbridge.
And they have 5 reservoirs for Southbridge?
Yes. I think they use 4.
So again, another item that's in there that we'll be talking about. But early stage, good news, we got the approval. We're going to move forward. Steve, I think you bring up some good points about winter work. Again, we haven't really put the details together on that. We'll figure that out. Going to give the contractor some flexibility from a timeline perspective, but we also want to get it done. Let's just start. Let's put our head down and get this thing done.
Yeah, I agree.
And the only other approval we need locally is the Concom approval.
It'll be next month, it's back on.
Well, luckily we're not in Sturbridge.
Sorry.
Yeah, we should have approval.
We'll wait till after the camera goes off for an explanation on that.
But we should, so, and then the only other thing, there's gonna be truck traffic issues and things of that nature, so we'll work with the fire department, we'll work with the police department, we'll inform them of the schedules and what's
And
approved
Nick
and
Deal,
everything.
the highway superintendent.
Yeah, we're gonna work with Nick on that. So everybody will be up to speed as to how it's all gonna happen.
Are these 10-wheelers or 18-wheelers or
Both.
both? Okay.
Probably trailer dumps too.
Probably trailer dumps. Trailer dumps will be a little tough in that because it's not a lot of room in there, but there's enough to turn. Yeah, so pretty much whatever the contractor wants to bring.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, Jim.
Well, Gary, see, can we talk about Bruce Burlingame's bid for the mowing?
Yes, if we're
Do
ready.
you have a minute?
I have it. I'm here as long as you guys want.
Oh, man, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, you do have that, we requested
Yes.
that Bruce submit.
We do have an estimate from Bruce. We get the correct. I'm sure you guys know. BCB Lawn Services out of Charlton, Massachusetts. This is Bruce Burlingame, who's been doing this for how many years now? 5, 6, something like that.
Several.
Pretty
Probably
good.
going on 7.
And we brought this up, I believe, at the last meeting, and we were, I believe, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we were all in agreement that Bruce is doing a very good job, above and beyond. So this particular estimate is for $7,000 per year. It would be a 2-year contract. Previously, the last contract that we had was also a 2-year contract. That was $5,000 per year. The reason for the increase is because of inflation and additional cost and additional time. He's doing quite a good job. Gary, you're out there quite a bit with him. Yeah.
So, a couple of questions for the chair. One, I believe it was 5,000 a mowing.
It is.
Yes.
I'm reading it.
Okay,
Per
so
mow.
so it's 7,000 per mow. So okay, so just for that clarification, that's good. I interface
Or Mo, okay.
significantly with Bruce. So
Up to twice,
it's-
generally twice.
Yeah, the contract, we're calling for twice a year. In the last 3 years, 4 years, we had 1 or 2 years where we only mowed it once, and it was because of the drought. But that actually kind of turned around and bit us because once it rained and got wet, and then it grew well, what happened is we were cutting 20 inches of grass,
Mhm.
and we ended up with dead grass on the top of the landfill, which didn't allow good growth. So last year I actually mowed it 2.5 times. he didn't mow the super steep ones twice. He mowed everything that's mowable with machinery without by hand. We had him do twice or 3 times, and then everything else he did once or twice. Without kind of getting off track, he does an excellent job. You've had 3 contractors here since I've been involved. One was a guy out of Connecticut, very conscientious, did a nice job. He only had the contract for 1 or 2 years. I don't think he bid it the next time. The board approved a contractor out of the Midwest with some specialty equipment. That was an absolute debacle.
Mhm.
We never paid them. They didn't do the work. Bruce went in and fixed it. Bruce is conscientious. His quality of work is good. He communicates with me. I have no issues whatsoever, and I would support the board hiring him. I think he has done the best work we've seen to date.
So this would be for, thank you, this would be for a 2-year contract, right, keeping in line with what we've been doing recently. Any other commentary from members or Jim? Go ahead, Matt.
So, I just want to ask the question, if we go 2 years, and it's 7,000, 7,000, 7,000, 7,000, that gets us at 28,000. Are we allowed to bid on that?
Mr. Chairman, Andrew says below the 50, so we can do it.
I make a motion that we try to procure BCB Lawn Services to do the 2-year mowing contract at the $7,000 per mow as estimated.
Do I have a second?
I second.
No further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bruce, looks like you're set for the next 2 years.
Just to clarify, the 2-year period is going to start when and end when?
It starts, I believe, in the next mowing or fall?
Andrea's going to have to check on that. I
Let's check the last
believe
date.
it's fiscal, so I think
June 30th.
I think you may have one more mowing at the old price, or no, the next, because I think we were doing. Andrew's gonna have to check. I don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak.
So, just to clarify, our vote that we just voted for is for the next 4 mowings.
For
If
2
he owes,
years.
if he owes us one, that's not what we just voted on. It's the next 4 unpaid mowings that,
Next 4 unapproved mowings.
unapproved mowings, yes.
Right,
Okay.
starting, if it's a fiscal year, then it's the next one after the start of the fiscal year.
Well,
Okay.
I'll have to check the records in
Okay.
the file.
All right, I think we're covered with that.
Yeah.
Jim, that's for you.
I'll give him a call tomorrow, have Andrew give him a call, or I'll call him and let him know, but he'll be happy. It's,
We'll be happy too. I
did-
remember the fiasco that we had with the,
he did fix and buy another machine that's gonna better service and help him, but he'll be happy.
I'm going to just backtrack a little bit. I think I saw you checking out the prior meeting minutes for February 11th. Did you have a chance to review those?
I
Matt?
did.
All right. Are we ready to go ahead and make a motion to approve those?
Yeah, where did they go? Right here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so through the chair, I make a motion that we accept the February 11th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is all set. That goes right in there. Very good.
Should we look at that? Matter of fact, Matt, you can put that back in there. Maybe we'll take that one more.
Next up under old business is PFAS. I don't know, Gary or Jim, did you have anything else for
I
that?
have no further updates on this.
No,
Very
I
good.
I
think
think
we-
the
I think
biggest
we
update
covered it.
is the fact that DEP approved our reduction in sampling,
Yeah.
and the only other thing is we are working on the phase 2 scope of work that we're required to do for the landfill, which requires looking at other possible sources. So we are going to be doing some drilling on the periphery of the town DPW lot at 15 to evaluate possible upgrading sources and to evaluate that
Mhm.
as a possible source because of the PFAS that's coming in the stream there. So we're working on scheduling that. It'll happen once it's not
Okay.
wet, because it's a little wet where we need, not wet, but it's a little tough area to get
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
That's it on that.
Okay, then we'll move on to department head reports. Jim Philbrook.
I've been gone for a couple weeks. I don't have much. I just got back. So, but we did have East Brookfield enter into our coalition. So Molly will be doing. They only have 4 inspections to do. The state was looking for them. They would only join our coalition. So Mark Moore, the chair, is very thankful that his ability to have some services and be on par, and he's glad to join the Charlton Coalition for Public Health. So.
You said 4 inspections. Is that like 4 restaurants or?
Well, he's got a convenience store, a gas
Yeah.
station, and one other, unless there's a housing complaint or whatever, which is doesn't happen
Yeah.
often. But Molly is up to taking on that. She lives in that area. So.
Good, excellent. Anything else, Jim? I'm sure you got something else there.
I want to talk about, well, mainly the East Brookfield thing. Been working with Gary on certain issues. The department itself is running well. We're still handing out COVID test kits, which, believe it or not, people still are collecting. There are measles that we've been aware of that are heading towards our way, so we'll be cognizant of the fact that a public health nurse will be checking and make sure we don't have any cases. If we do, we'll certainly update the board. We did get our cancer rates from the state that are from previous years, and I believe I sent them to everybody. If not, I can resend them to you. You know, Matt, I think it's every 3 or 4 with COVID they were delayed. They actually did a report on us for MTBE and see if it had any effect on rates of cancer in Charlton, and it didn't. So, but this is the new one, and all of them came out at once. So, we're looking about on the average, we're not high on anything or whatever, but you know, all these are not.
Nothing too alarming.
No, nothing alarming or over the top that would be an asterisk for Charlton. So, doing that. I would be helping out Dudley tomorrow. Tom Purcell is their new health agent, and will be taking over when he returns from Florida.
What? He's still going to be doing all of his work here with us?
I haven't spoke to him, but I will. I was just informed by Dudley. They gave me 3 things that are of importance that have been delayed. And Roberta, the chairman, Roberta Johnson, I've agreed I'll be going to the subway tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to meet with them. See if we can get them back open. They've been closed for quite some time. And so I'll be doing that for them. And then when Tom gets back, he'll be taking over and doing what he needs to do for Dudley.
When does Tom come back?
I don't know. I'm going to call him tomorrow and discuss
It probably depends on the warmth of the weather and so forth. I mean, other than this Dudley thing.
Yeah, didn't know about it until today, but she did inform me that he's temporary until the end of July, I guess.
Okay.
So we can try and find someone.
So he could potentially do both jobs.
Well, they asked me to do most of the inspections, which I did not agree to. I have too much to do as it is.
Mm.
They're not part of our coalition. They were part of another one and left. So, but in good faith, they do have a need, and I've agreed to. And I'll be doing it myself tomorrow. So,
Okay.
just want to inform the board that I'll be doing. There's 3 things that have been really lagging behind and really causing a manifest injustice to some people that really get upset. So, I agreed to
Oh,
step
that's
in.
good. Yep.
It shouldn't take that long.
We like Dudley.
So we'll, and if they need help with the schools, I said no problem, because they involve, if the Shepherd Hill, they involve Charlton residents.
Mhm.
So
That's right.
I never say no to that.
Okay.
But that's about all I have. So.
Good. We'll move on then. Other business unknown at the time of the meeting? I don't have anything. Anybody else have anything?
Curious how the numbers of the kids in the schools, are they back up? John, do you know? Have you heard?
For
Like last meeting, it seemed like there was a lot of flus and kids
Oh.
were sick. Does
Yeah,
that
I
seem
don't
to be
know.
better?
they're up.
They're still
They were up.
getting a lot of absenteeism, a lot of respiratory issues.
I thought it was coming
Flu.
down.
It is
In
coming down.
general.
It's not to the
I don't know
point.
about the schools here, but in general,
They were,
from the news reports. I thought
yeah,
it
they
was-
report to us when there's an issue, and I've referred them to the epidemiologists from the state, which are tracking all of this. We track it through Maven, but it's not a communicable disease. It's more of a cluster of when you have 10 children out in one classroom, it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Daycare, same thing. A lot of people sick. When one of the children catch it, it's like wildfire. It goes around.
At least it's
It
not.
includes my own
At least it's not
granddaughter
measles.
and grandson. So,
Yeah.
but we're trying to keep everyone healthy and certainly make sure they have the right support and know what to do. And that's a day and age where you go into a ready med clinic or trying to get antibiotics, and your regular doctor is marking that out to these clinics. So
Mhm.
it's tough nowadays to get an appointment.
Yeah, it's bad.
So.
Steve, anything else on your end? No? All right. Can we discuss our next meeting then? Matt's going to call up the calendar.
So, Gary, do we have anything time sensitive at this point or no?
No, sir.
What are we in March?
Last I go. So, 1, 2, 3, that would, 4 weeks would put us at April 8th. I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
April 8th, the next
April
meeting,
8th?
Andrea?
I'm not a voting member, but I'm good with that. Because the next week I'm not.
April 8th, 6 p.m.
Remember the Gumby comment last meeting?
What was that?
I said, I said, it doesn't matter, I'm as flexible as Gumby.
I got it.
I got it. I had a Gumby. All right. With that, any Gumbies out there want to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I'll make a motion. to
Gumby?
adjourn the meeting.
All
I'll
right.
second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Time is 7:01 by my watch. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.